So yeah, bikes just everywhere. Bikes kind of just stuffed wherever bikes can be stuffed. This is kind of like my more long-term bike storage. Here at PandaPodium, we are guilty of being like, we are squeezing all of the performance. We want the very, very best stuff.
When I was visiting Xiamen this winter, I definitely had to check back with Joe from PandaPodium again. Their growth from the outside looks quite incredible in the last 2.5 years since I last met them. He gave me an exclusive tour through the office and we sat down for a long interview, which we just managed to wrap up before they left for another cycling event. Full disclosure, this video and my trip to Xiamen was not sponsored in any kind by him. The only saying he gave me was this bottle the last time I went there and this beautiful socks. I'm sharing this because I think Joe's perspective on the Chinese cycling industry is very valuable and our conversations we had before is always extremely insightful for me. But even after some editing, this video is still 1 hour long, so if you're in a hurry, please use the chapter marks below to skip to points which are interesting for you. One quick note, this will be my last video in English for a while. I will be switched back to German with English auto dubbing enabled. But of course, every time I'm here back to Xiamen and meet like the factories here or have another talk with Joe, the video will be back in English. So please subscribe if you don't want to miss out on those. Until then, enjoy the video. So guys, today we are here in Xiamen at PandaPodium headquarters.
Yep.
And with me is Joe, which you all know from ChinaCycling and PandaPodium.
Yeah, like I haven't even made a video tour of the company yet, so this is a world exclusive. Let's take a look. Okay, so let me give you guys the quick tour. So yeah, first floor, we walk in. So these are packages ready to be shipped up. We get packages picked up like 4 times a day. We've got some of the brands we work with up on the wall. The office dog, security dog, if anyone's getting any ideas, he's going to get your ankles. He's probably just putting that ready to go out. It's already been inspected, so let me have a look. Yeah, so it's got we put these PandaPodium QC stickers on everything, so we know when it's been QC'd or not. So this has been QC'd. It's now being put back in its packaging, ready to go out again. Even though we trust everyone we work with, because that's why we work with them, they do their own QC, but we still QC absolutely everything we send out ourselves. So Evolve are obviously also based in Xiamen, but yeah, they could send it themselves, but no, it comes to here first, we unbox it, we check everything, we measure everything, make sure everything's in spec and gets sent out. This is basically goods in, so things that have just arrived and not been QC'd yet. So we've got some CRW wheels over there, and then a whole bunch of Quick Pro frame sets. Quick Pro obviously pretty popular these days. It gets QC'd in this warehouse and then gets repackaged here to go back out. The sales team, so we've got Ava. Ava is the head gringo of the sales team. We've got Tom. If ever you have a question on the email and you ask like, oh, can I use a 2004 SRAM Dura Ace front derailleur with this frame because it's got this feature, blah, blah, blah. Tom's the poor guy who has to go through and like search for the history of weird and wonderful bike compatibility things. So yeah, Tom's doing that stuff. And then down there's Ben. So Ben is like everything, but mostly purchasing. So yeah, he's in charge of like making sure that we have the right stuff in stock. And then we have Oma and Daisy here, who are both like the logistics team. So making sure that your package goes with the right distributor and gets to its destination safe. So that's kind of the sales team. Yeah, we started out with just the first floor, but then obviously as the company's growing, like we've got the second floor now and some of the third floor. So this used to be my office, but now yeah, it's become a warehouse of sorts. So yeah, like we don't have a big warehouse, we have lots of small warehouses just because this building was primarily an office building, so stuff kind of gets stuffed wherever it can be stuffed. Yeah, so this is the warehouse for small parts. So a bazillion ride now tubes. This is Chow, also a strung rider. Most of our guys here ride, like you'll see lots of the bikes around. And then here we have things like Majin power meters, Cybre cranksets, Cybre chain rings, all the small things that we sell a lot of stay in this warehouse. This is where the PandaPodium socks are stored. So if you get a pair of PandaPodium socks in your order, that's what you get. If you ordered during Christmas, you got these limited edition Christmas socks, and it's after Christmas now, but there you go, Merry Christmas. That one could be
Thank you.
Second floor, again, bikes kind of just stuffed wherever bikes can be stuffed. Quick tour, this is more like office space. So this is more like the IT marketing team. So this is Zoe.
Hi.
So Zoe is mostly in charge of like talking to YouTubers and influencers. So like she's got everyone on speed dial. Barry's the video guy. So I used to do all the videos myself, but now Barry does them, so they're a lot better than before. So he's shooting the videos and editing the videos and stuff. And then Mars is the IT guy. So making sure our website doesn't explode with Black Friday traffic. That's Mars. In here, we've got the Beast.
The Beast. The Xiamen cyclist. The Xiamen cyclist.
This is mine and James's office, so it's the messiest office. And yeah,
I keep the camera
yeah,
under high.
it's fine. we'll mosaic everything. But yeah, James's bike's hidden down there and stuff. Your traditional in China, obviously you have to have the tea table that we were talking about just. So yeah, if anyone doesn't know, that's a thing.
In Fujian, it's totally the most popular thing ever.
This is we've just rented this section, so it's not up and going yet. Next door, which I showed you off camera, which is a bomb site at the moment, is where I do build bikes and shoot videos. And at the moment, it's too much for one room, so it's going to be spread out over these two rooms now. So here, think of setting up some like talk, chatty, interviewee, live stream kind of session here. This is going to be like the new building bike rooms. So we're going to move all the bike stuff to here, and more storage next door because yeah, we're running out. I need to buy more bikes, and I'm running out of space to put the bikes. So yeah, just need more storage basically. The bikes that aren't being ridden every day. This is kind of like my more long-term bike storage, and I'll give you a quick tour of the bikes from right to left. Again, more storage because, like I say, we don't have enough room. We don't have one big warehouse, so it's all in lots of small warehouses. So yeah, more Arcaris wheels. And then obviously we also have inventory at all of our partners' things as well. So like our partners, if they're based in Xiamen especially, will keep stock in their warehouse. And then when we need to send it somewhere, they'll just send it. And yeah, some boys' toys. Yeah, some boys' toys in the corner there. So for example, we keep some of the spares for the wheels here as well. This is our Arcaris hub. And so Arcaris hubs, we proudly say, powered by H-Works, made by H-Works. The internals are the same as most of the H-Works hubs because they're in lots of wheels, like especially, everyone knows the 9 Velo wheels. There are thousands and thousands of those out there. Hambini rates them as well. So I didn't touch the internals. The internals are H-Works' design because it's reliable and Hambini rates it. And then I wanted a hub, with 2-to-1 spoke lacing on the rear wheel with 18 spokes, and no one made it, so I designed it. And yeah, so the outside of the hub is basically our design, and then the inside is H-Works' own design. And yeah, we have the thing as well where everyone, obviously Peak Talk will talk about side entry spokes and how he doesn't like them. So we have a patented system, which seemed simple to me, but no one else did it. Yeah, once the spoke goes in, we put a little a bolt in here, and then it can't come out. So super simple solution, but yeah, it means your side-loaded spokes can't fall out. So yeah, we're just, we're trying to.
What do you mean with design? You're not an engineer, I know. You're
No. So I was a 3D modeler in the games industry in my previous life. So I know my way around CAD software and I know my way around 3D software. So like I'll mock up what I want it to look like, and then they'll take that 3D, or like I'll mock up what dimensions I want it to have, and they'll take that my 3D sketch and like make it into an actual engineering sketch. So when I say designed, I didn't do the actual like G code for the machine or anything, but yeah, I get the pen out and I put it into 3D Studio Max or Blender or whatever, and then they turn it into actual a CAD model and stuff.
So after this quick tour through your offices and your storages and everything, now I have some questions prepared. I've been here like 3 years ago, in 2023. Since then, like you have now multiple floor. The Panda empire is growing, trying to take over the cycling world. Yeah. How does a guy like you from England, like a regular bloke, maybe end up here in Xiamen, a city which is like maybe it's not known to any Westerners?
First of all, how I ended up in China is a bit of a story in itself, but long story short, 2008, economic crisis. My first job was in the games industry, the video games industry, a 3D artist. 2008, economic crisis. Our US publisher closed the UK studios, so I was without a job. One of my university buddies, he was teaching English in a small city up in the north of China. And I lost my job at the same time that they lost a teacher. It was like, oh, come over and teach English. Like, you only teach for like 12 hours a week. You'll have a bunch of time to work on your CV, your portfolio and stuff. I was like, okay. It's like, just come on a 3-month contract. I was like, fine. And that was like 17 years ago now or whatever. So just came and fell in love with China. So China like 16, 17 years ago and China now are totally different. But that's been cool as well, because the progress of China in those like 10, 20 years is like Western countries 100 years of development. Like you know, lots of people only see what they see on the news, and is the propaganda. Of course there is, like both for and against China, but you've came here and seen with your own eyes like what it's like living here. Like, I'm not going to say we're in the future, we've got flying cars, but like it's not what people think, right? It's a very convenient place. All of the transport network, everything's safe. We just left your camera and stuff downstairs, like no one watching it. You don't have to worry about it going missing. So China's a cool place to live. So that was how I ended up and stayed in China. And then in the UK, I was a car guy, but in China it's illegal to modify cars. So I wanted something to scratch that itch. So someone got me into road bikes. And I was learning everything I knew about road bikes through like YouTube. So it was like basically when GCN was just starting. So GCN taught me a whole bunch back in the day. But one thing I noticed was the stuff I was seeing on GCN and the stuff I was seeing like in the West was totally different to the stuff that was in China. So like I'd go on group rides in China or I'd go to bike shops in China, it was totally different. And I was like, I'm learning all this stuff about Western cycling from YouTube in China. Maybe there's a market or an appetite for people to learn all about Chinese cycling in the West. So that was the birth of ChinaCycling, the YouTube channel. That was like 2016, I think I started the channel, and it was just like weird and wonderful stuff. Like I think it was like some fake helmets and stuff. Like it was, just the stuff that you just walk around seeing what's different. 2019 was the first time I went to the Shanghai Bike Show, and that was just like number one for me, just seeing how big that show is and how big this industry is in China and how much of the stuff was being made here as well. Like that kind of blew my mind. And number two, like the videos as well. Like those videos did really well and like kind of like got the channel off the ground. And then from that, like when I was there, go around these booths making videos, the brands at that point also knew that like the Western market was a big market, but they had no idea how to get into it, and no one in the West knew about them. And so like me, some white guy walking around the show with a camera, like everyone was like, oh no, come here. Like so everyone was super happy to talk, and like everyone was like, oh, after the show come and check out our factory. And everyone said that, but there was only one brand that followed through with it, which was the brand that I ended up working at for a few years.
Was the W in it?
Yeah, that brand. So I ended up working there for like 3 years, and that was kind of like the litmus test. Like, so I always had the theory that the Chinese had at that point had good products, but number one, there was like no marketing or like even no branding. Like they had logos on them, but the difference between a logo and a brand is, again, another 4-hour video. So that was like a litmus test. I was like, okay, if I can turn this, it already had the name, so I couldn't fix that, and it already had the font, I couldn't fix that. But like, if I can try to turn this into a brand and give good support, good customer service, and all this stuff, will it take off? And I think history shows it did. Like that brand's doing very well now. Credit to them as well. Like, I'm not saying it was just me; they were doing good products and there's good people at the company and stuff. But that was the litmus test. But then it was always super limiting because that's just one brand with like a few products, and I was like, well, there are so many good brands and so many good products. I want to make this bigger, and that was kind of like the birth of PandaPodium, as it were. And as you said, like when you first came, I don't know how long we'd been going for that. So
2023, I was here.
What month? July?
Maybe summer.
Yeah, so we were like our third month into business then. So we started like April, May of 2023. Just 5 of us in the office on the first floor.
Just the first floor.
Yeah, just the first floor, like super quiet, just 1 or 2 customer inquiries every day, 1 or 2 shipments every day. But it was fine. Like, I had faith that it was going to pick up. And
but still, it was a big risk. Like as a foreigner here in China, making a company, I think there's maybe some red tape you need to.
Of course, like having a Chinese wife helps. Yes. You would know this. Yeah, so having the Chinese wife helps get through that red tape and stuff. And at that point, I'd also already been in China for like 12, 13 years, and a bit street smart, as it were, in terms of the China stuff. risk in terms of like financial, like I was always super confident. Yeah, I like to do things my way, and I'm very stubborn, or I like to do things the right way, which of course I'm biased, I think my way is the right way. But so like when I was at the other company, like we saw eye to eye on maybe like 80% of things, but there was always that 20% of things like I was like, I don't like that. And so now with my name above the door, the PandaPodium side of things, okay, like I get to draw the line. But then I still have one hand tied with when the brand does something I don't like. Like there's a variation of brands. Some of the brands will listen to everything I say, like for better or worse, but like they trust me, they know that I'm the biggest retailer, or they know that the overseas market is a big market, blah, blah, blah. Before they start a new product, they'll get me involved on day one, like what should we do, how should we do it, and like CRW is a pretty good example. Like they take care of the how to make it work, but like I'll say like, oh, let's make a climbing wheel set, or let's make an aero wheel set, but then some brands like literally the day before they'd drop their new thing, they'll just show me, oh, by the way, we finished this. And I'm just like, oh, why did you do this? Like a gravel bike with only 45C tire clearance. I'm like, that's not going to be very popular in the West these days, or in America at least. And so, yeah, some brands give me more control or more input, and some brands don't. And that's one of the reasons I'm starting like Arcaris, because yeah, I'm a bit of a control freak, I guess. So I want full control over the product, but it's not more that I'm megalomaniac and I want to be in control. It's just that you've got perfect marketing, perfect branding, perfect customer service and everything, but the product isn't good. Like it's a bit of a dead starter. So Arcaris exists basically to make the products that none of our brands want to make. So our first product, like 27 mil climbing wheels, like no one's making 27 mil climbing wheels in 2020, 2025. So yeah, I was like, okay, well, if none of you are going to do it, I'm going to do it. And yeah, it's also for skinny boys. So suggested rider weight on this one is like 75 kilos and below. And again, because most mainstream brands, they don't want to like chop off half of the customer base by saying like 75 kilos and below. But because I already have enough traffic on PandaPodium, like I can make a super niche product, and like we'll be able to sell enough of it. Like you saw how many we're shipping out enough. And so yeah, so we can make these super niche products that other brands wouldn't dare make or don't see enough demand to make. And so that's pretty cool because yeah, I get to make stuff that I want to ride basically. But I will say, well, like, I'm sorry I'm talking a lot, but I will say that's one bad thing about doing this. So my main motivation for doing things like these wheels is it's the wheels that I want to ride, so I do it. But what happens with then, like, as soon as I get to the final prototype and I have prepared for myself, like my motivation drops off. So I had like the final prototype for these wheels half a year ago, and since then progress has been so slow. Like the packaging took me ages to do, the web page took me ages to do. Like I've not even made a video about the wheels yet because my main motivation to make these wheels was just to have wheels for me to ride. So once I have that, it's like whatever. But I will eventually do a video review of these wheels.
So let's talk, like, maybe I visit your website, PandaPodium, I'm interested in Acaris or Evolve frame.
Yes.
I want to order it, but maybe for me as a new customer from Germany, I have like 4 things in the top of my head. Like, how much is the shipping?
Yes.
How long will it take?
Yes.
Will there be any duties, tax stuff? Will there be, like we all know, maybe there's some stories and some forums online where some guy like get charged like later on with some big fines. And of course, there are some, there's some, in Germany at least, there's some shipping company like which is known to be not so careful with the packaging.
Okay.
Which, like, there's some videos like throwing things on the balcony and stuff like this. So there will sometimes be shipping damages handled, like this kind of warranty claims, like this kind of 4 things. How would you address it?
Yeah, so let me see how good my memory is if I can remember before. But first I'll say, like, that's probably like the hardest thing about PandaPodium, because like our whole thing is we make buying the Chinese stuff safe and easy and simple, right? So, and the whole reason we've gone from that small company that you saw a few years ago to this not so small but still small
medium-sized
company now
SM.
is because the word of mouth and stuff, right? So we must be doing something right. Now, what are we doing right? So first of all, you said shipping costs. So on the site, like 95% of stuff is like free shipping.
Oh.
So I think, again, I should know these things, but I think the minimum order value for free shipping is like $50 US or $30 US even. Yeah, maybe $30 US. There's always some caveats. So caveat number 1 is last year, the Trump tariffs came in. So one thing that we do, which is the answer to your second question, we do like duty prepaid shipping. We prepay the duties for the customer. And so when the Trump tariffs went a bit crazy, the cost of that prepaid Judas went up for us, obviously. And so then we stopped doing free shipping to America for like 2 or 3 months while that situation was crazy. But then Trump lowered his tariffs, or like everyone stepped down and stuff. And so that went back down. First question, almost everything is free shipping. If you want to get it faster, we can do express shipping, which is usually like $100 US. Again, it depends on how big the thing is that you're buying. But with the express shipping, there's no way for us to prepay the Judas.
Oh.
Because the express shipping is usually the big couriers like FedEx, DHL, those guys. So you'll get it fast, but then you will get import taxes, or like 99% sure you'll get import taxes and stuff.
What does fast and slow mean here? Like, for example, Europe, Central Europe?
So again, it depends on if it's in stock in our warehouse or if it's in stock in our partner's warehouse. But let's say it's something that's in stock on the shelf in my warehouse that you saw earlier, and some guy in Germany orders it. Let's say the fast shipping, 5 to 7 business days to get to Germany. But again, you'll probably get import tax. And then standard shipping. And again, I don't want to put a number in concrete for a reason I'll tell you in a sec. Probably 14 to 21 business days.
Yes.
But then it gets super, super complicated. Like, so you saw downstairs Oma and Daisy, my 2 logistics girls. There are a bunch of different shipping options for us to use. And there are different pros and cons of each one. How safe is it? How fast is it? And things like this. But then some of them have limitations. So some of them you can't send electronic things. So then power meters, I can't go with that. Electronic Groupsets, can't go with that. And that was also why back in the early days when people were buying L2 Groupsets on AliExpress, like there were no batteries in them and you had to put the batteries in yourself. Because some of these, they don't let you put batteries in it. Some of them have size limitations as well. So the new in-color SSR frame set has an ISP and the box for it is massive.
Yes.
We can't send that through certain couriers as well, and blah, blah, blah. So the logistics side of the company is a side that I don't pay much attention to because it's so complicated and it is an absolute minefield. But my logistics team downstairs, like they're very good at it. And they always choose the best option. I always tell them priority number 1 is make sure it gets to the customer safe. And then priority number 2 is the cost of it. If it doesn't get to the customer safe, it's us who has to deal with it as well. So we have as much motivation as the customer to make sure it gets to you safe, because it's an absolute pain in the arse for us to ship you a frame and it gets damaged in shipment. Blah, 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 blah. Damaged in shipping, I'd say is like 0.2 or even less percent. Like super, super low. It's very rare. Anything like this ends up on my desk, and it's very rare I see something like that. And when it is, it's just like, it does vary by country, because I think it's the last delivery section that has the most variation. And yeah, some countries like have higher ratios than other, and some of the boxes you see, you're like, wow, what did you do to that box? But again, it's so small of a percentage, it's like 0.2%, everything else gets there pretty fine. So the first one was how much does it cost? We said mostly free shipping. The second one was import duties. If you choose standard shipping, we will prepay the duties. Now, on the website, one thing that people talk about is we have this disclaimer that like, oh, if you do have any duties, you're responsible for it. Why do we have that? It's just because in the modern world, you never know at what point Trump is just going to absolutely change his mind. And I cannot financially bear responsible. Yes. At any time, I probably have a lot of packages on the way to America. If the law changes overnight, like I don't want PandaPodium to disappear overnight because one guy was in a bad mood on Twitter. So that's why we have this thing on the website where we say, oh, if there are any duties, you've got to pay it. But again, we've grown bigger by word of mouth. We wouldn't have grown bigger if it wasn't good.
Also in Germany, like there's a mandatory warranty of 2 years for all sold products to end customers. I think if I buy from you, I don't have this kind of thing.
Like, yeah, so technically I assume you are the importer of the goods, so then they're not subject to the EU 2-year warranty. But I think most of the products on our site, they already have the manufacturer's warranty against like manufacturing defects and stuff. And I think most of the bigger items like frames and wheel sets, they're already like 2 or 3 years. I think Quick Pro is something crazy like 5 years. So yeah.
And there were never any like kind of recalls or like defects like this kind of to warrant like sending it back or like.
Yeah. So very like I always say, never fear the company or the brand that has recalls. Fear the one that has 0 recalls, right? back in the very early days of the CRW wheels, there was an issue with one of the end caps, wasn't quite machined to spec. And everyone who was from the affected batch, we sent them a new end cap. And from that batch, people who'd already been using the bad end caps, I think like some people had bearings that wore out too fast and stuff. And for those guys, yeah, like if they came to us and they had to go get a bearing change in the local bike shop, we'd refund them the money that it cost them to get it refunded in the bike shop. So our job as PandaPodium is like to be the middle ground between the brand and the consumer, because like you can imagine you get lots of people who are like, oh, I was just riding along and my frame exploded. Yes. Not that many people, but you know, people will say this. And like sometimes it's like, and I talk to my friends that specialize in things like this, they get all this stuff as well. And, you know, in the industry it's called JRA, like just riding along, because customers say, oh, I was just riding along and this happened. But then you dig down deeper. I go stalk them on Instagram maybe, and you see like they've posted a video of them crashing in a crit, and you're like, oh really, you're just riding along, huh? So there's this thing where we'll get an issue with a frame and the customer says they're just riding along, and then we'll give it to the brand, and the brand will like look at the photos and trying to judge by how it's cracked, whether it was an impact or this or that or the other. And so obviously the customer says, oh, it's just riding along, and the brand says, no, you were doing X, Y, Z, and we're in the middle, and it's our job to like say this, that, and the other. And again, most of the brands that we work with, they'll listen to us if we'll say like, okay, we also think the customer was doing what they shouldn't have been on it, like, but for the sake of this, for the sake of face, let's just give the customer a warranty. And 9 times out of 10, the brand will listen to us, and then it's all happy days. And then the brand will give us a new frame, and we have to pay for shipping to ship it to the customer, basically.
Currently, you're only like selling like frame sets and bike parts. There's no like a full bike I can order from PandaPodium. My guess is it's because maybe like the EU anti-dumping tax for the full bike build is like 50% or something. Like, or so your target audience is like mostly like DIY guys and maybe shops who build up something and maybe buy a small collection.
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. So firstly, complete bikes is something we do want to do in the future, and it's also something that lots of the Chinese brands weren't doing until recently. I've seen more and more of the Chinese brands and sellers like are starting to offer these complete bike things. So like, I think it's going to become more mainstream. Because obviously the hardcore DIY user is the guy who's building the bike himself from the frame. Like that's mostly our audience these days. But of course we want to make all of this cool product available to more and more people. So yeah, we definitely make it more accessible. And one of the ways to that is by offering complete bikes.
But how to handle the tax then? You want to open an overseas office? Or?
So yeah, tax, obviously if we're prepaying the duties, that's going to be a bit more cost from us. So these complete bikes might not look as good value as they do. But then there are layers upon layers of the complexity of this. When you export things from China, you have to have permission from the original brand to export it as well, which means that if you've got a Shimano group set on this bike, I need to then go to the Shimano and ask Shimano for permission to export this and all of this. So there's a whole bunch of paperwork, which is just the Chinese group sets or the light at the end of the tunnel for this. Like the Chinese group sets will solve that, because obviously L2 are already giving me permission to export their stuff, so that's fine. Do most people want to ride L2 stuff at this point? I think not as many as want to ride Shimano and stuff, right? So as the Chinese group sets improve in quality, I think complete bikes will be an option for us. A complete bike is a lot more complicated for the end user. There's a lot more things that can go wrong or and stuff like this. So yeah, it's definitely one thing we want to add. 2026 maybe, but I think definitely by 2027 it's a service we want to do. Or another solution is we have a partner bike shop in the EU and we have a partner bike shop in the US, and then on PandaPodium you place your order, and then all the stuff gets shipped to that place and they build the bike for you, and then they send the bike to you. It would be. And
also they maybe would handle kind of warranty claims or something like this.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a place for the customer to send things back to and all this and stuff. But the logistics of that is an absolute headache, and yeah, not easy, but it's on the calendar.
So we just touched group sets, like Chinese group set. I think this is one area where like Shimano and SRAM are still kind of unbeaten, I think. And but of course there's L2, there's Magine, there's Wheeltop, there is Sentia, Sensor, coming up with electronic group sets now. But from my experience or from my seeing on YouTube, there is still some road to travel there. They are not totally there yet. Like, how do you see the future of this kind of group sets, and which group sets do you like?
Again, me personally, if I was building the best bike for performance, it would probably have Shimano Dura Ace on it. Whereas if I was building the best bike for performance, it would probably have Chinese wheels on it. So I think wheels are at a point at this point where they've surpassed the Western stuff in terms of just outright performance, not just talking about value. But yeah, I think the group sets is one place where if you're just talking about outright performance, I think the Western, Shimano are Eastern, I assume, because they're from Japan.
Yes,
But
Japan.
we'll just call them Western, it's fine. The good ones are Western, the bad ones are Eastern. Yeah, Shimano would probably be my go-to choice. As for reliability and stuff, again, Shimano is not perfect. So even in the office, James, who you saw earlier, like he has so many issues with Shimano hydraulics, like leaking calipers that just can't be fixed and stuff, and brake levers that just suddenly stop working and stuff. And obviously everyone saw the crank issue with the cranks pulling apart.
Yes.
So a group set is complicated. Like even Shimano have been doing it for like decades. It's tough, right? So L2 who have been in the game, especially the electronic group set game, for just a few years, to expect them to be able to do what Shimano are doing in decades, yeah, like give them a few more years. One thing I will say as well is patents in this area is obviously a minefield. Again, this is a bit off topic, but the original idea of patents was to protect a good guy, a small guy with a good idea, from big corporations like stealing his idea. But now patents have been turned into, oh, let's protect the big corporations from small guys even getting into the market. So I don't think that was the original idea of patents, but it is what it is. Patents were making it hard for everyone. Everyone knows the story of, like, you know, SRAM have the patent of having two identical removable batteries on your front and rear derailleur.
Which never can think about. This is like,
yeah, like, oh wow, who would have
crazy
thought
idea.
that? Yeah. To go back to topic, yeah, the Chinese stuff, they're trying to get around patents, which like sounds like a dirty term, but I think for consumers,
everybody does, I think. Also
yeah, like,
Shimano.
yeah, like, and I know some guys in the shoe space as well, and like back in the day, when super shoes first came out with like carbon soles in them, and like everyone trying to get around each other's patents on that, like, so everyone's doing it. So I think it's the one area that I'm super excited for, because I think at the moment there are so few players in the group set space. You know, we've only got L2, Majin, Wheeltop, and Sentia. And it's getting worse as well, because all of these guys have a whole bunch of Chinese patents as well. So now it's really hard for other Chinese companies to join the game. But at the moment, all these guys are focused on making a value group set. Wheeltop, they're just going to use Rotor to do the high-end group set, so they're probably not going to do high-end. L2, most of their thing is like OEM, like supplying to XDS and all these other bike companies, so they're probably not going to do high-end because they want to keep it on value bikes. Majin, I think, are working on higher-end stuff, like so that has potential, but they've also had toothing issues with their stuff. There was some drama about that, which Trace Fellow put on his channel. And then who was the other one? Sensor, yeah, Sensor. I think their stuff that I tried at Shanghai Bike Show is looking pretty good. Will they aim for high end though? I'm not sure, but if you look at wheels, it was the same thing. So when Chinese wheels first started coming around, everyone was just starting to do just value wheels, not like absolute peak performance wheels. The first time that those hyper wheels came out at over $1,000, like everyone thought it was crazy, like, wow, Chinese wheels for over $1,000, that's insane, who would buy that? But now there are so many Chinese wheels that like between this $1,000 to $2,000 mark, right? And they're probably the best selling ones. And I think we're seeing that in frames these days as well. So again, frames before, they were all like $1,500 frames, which were aimed to be like value frames. But now we're seeing more and more of these 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 frames, which are trying to be better than the Western frame. So, you know, the Evolve is $2,000 something dollars. The In Color, which I had here up on the roof a few days ago, is like a $4,000 frame set, like absolute mind blown. Me personally, as just a bike nerd who wants to ride the best stuff, like I like them going higher and higher, but I can understand that some people don't like the price creep and blah, blah, blah. My answer to that is like no one's stopping you from buying the cheaper stuff still, like the cheaper stuff still exists. But then I was talking with this about the Nero boys, and Jesse was like, oh, but it encourages everyone to go up in prices, and like it makes the price creep, even the lower end goes up. Like, yeah, I see that too, but like it's a capitalist society. Like if people want the cheaper stuff, someone will make the cheaper stuff. So I think it's not a problem.
Let's touch on the superbike, hyperbike thing. I can go to AliExpress and buy like any kind of frame, which any kind of brand, like we talk brand, which it gets shipped, and maybe in the best chance, maybe I get a Chabudur, like a good enough bike which I can ride, maybe as a prosumer even maybe can enjoy it. But what's the difference like to the superbike and hyperbike, and also like how the Chinese companies, which are unbeknownst like some couple of years ago, just creep up and they produce like a hyperbike which maybe beats out the industry leading companies, the big boys.
Yeah,
how is it possible?
Great questions. So number one, first of all, it's 99% the rider, right? The bike is just 1%. So
too bad.
Tadej could win the Tour on the AliExpress bike that you just talked about, right? As cyclists, we're all guilty of that 1% of the bike. We want to squeeze every last percent of the 1%. So, you know, the difference between Dura Ace and Ultegra, or Dura Ace and 105, like the price difference is astronomical. But the actual performance, if you did a super scientific test, so let's say we have a loop, 40k loop, it's got uphills, downhills, everything. You do it 100 times on the Dura Ace group set on X Power, you do it 100 times on the 105 group set X Power. I'm saying there's like 5 seconds different, maybe 10 seconds different. Now, when you see the Tour de France and the GC difference is down to seconds, okay, that makes a difference, right? But for most people, you know, eat one less slice of pizza every meal for a week and you'll be a minute faster. So that's number one. Here at PandaPodium, we are guilty of being like, we are squeezing all of the performance. We want the very, very best stuff. Do you need it? No one does. But this whole industry exists because people like me and most people watching this video probably, we want the performance. So we want to squeeze that 1%. So that would be my answer to your first question. Your second question about how can they possibly do it? I think there's two things. First of all, I'll give an example from another industry. Xiamen with their cars, like Nürburgring lap record. So they took with their prototypes, they took the prototype 4-door record or whatever, and then now they have the production 4-door EV record there. This is a company that's been making cell phones, and their first time at making a car, have made a car that is taking Nürburgring lap records. The CEO of Ford is like, I would rather drive this car than any of my own cars. Like, so how can it be done? That's an example of someone else who's done it to prove that this isn't some sort of miracle alone in the bike industry. But how? Two things. One thing, which I think isn't that important, but lots of people like to talk about. Obviously, these factories have been manufacturing for the Western brands for so long. Like, so many guys behind the brands in Xiamen all started from one factory, like Top Key working there, and Top Key produced for especially produced for one very big brand with an S on the front that everyone knows. And so that brand does lots of R&D themselves and lots of development, but that brand, to save money, chose to manufacture in this factory. Like, that was their choice. No one forced them to do it. By them doing that knowledge and R&D passed to people in the factory, and then when people leave that factory to make their own factory or to make their own brand, that knowledge gets passed on. No one forced them to do that. They chose to do that. When they did that, they knew that this would happen. So that's one part of it. Number two is, I can't remember the figure, but there are millions of STEM graduates graduating from China every year. Like, it's just a numbers game. Like, there are millions and millions and millions of engineers coming out. And you'll know what the education system is in China. Like, in primary school, you start in school at 8 a.m., you finish in school at 5 p.m., and you're probably doing homework till like 8 p.m. again. Like, I have two kids who've gone
soul crushing.
Yeah, it is soul crushing. Like, I do not recommend a way to raise your kids. That's not how I raised my kids. So the difference in levels of education is pretty substantial. And then the numbers game, if you have millions and millions of engineers, the Western narrative doesn't want to say it, but there are lots of smart people in China with lots of smart ideas. And of course, they're going to make good stuff. Like, they didn't come out of nowhere. They've been helping the big brands make stuff for years. And there are just lots of clever people here. So that's how they do it.
And with the Top Peak, they all started, like, after this, they mostly started with, I think, with OEM works for the other Western brands. Yeah, and then maybe they started to, now tipping their toes into wanted to ship their own brands.
So Top Key, I don't think have their own brands, because like Top Key have such a good relationship with that big brand that they don't want to sour that, so they won't. But of all of the car manufacturers in Xiamen, of which there are lots, I'd say like 70-80% can trace their roots back to top key.
So superbikes, hyperbikes is a really interesting topic. Like you say, it's the top of the peak, so the apex. But like for the regular guy like me, I'm like also trying to save a buck. But on your website, I think the cheaper frames are like the Big Rock and the Yoileo, about $1,000. We just touched about like this already includes shipping. So this you say this already includes some shipping cost.
Yeah.
So this I think also makes the price. Can see now the price through a different kind of light, because usually like with the other brands, they also their surcharge shipping, 150 or something. This kind of bottom tier or like medium tier even. What do you think about this kind of tier? Is this something you see selling more here from your shop?
Personally, I love proper like blue collar stuff. I love an underdog story. I love like a sleeper car. I don't know if you know like sleeper car, like getting an old car and like souping it up, but you can't tell from the outside, and then like you go to the guy who's got a brand new Porsche and you just dust him. Like I love value stuff, like value for money. I'm not an engineer, but I love efficiency. Like as a German, I assume you love efficiency too.
Yes.
And efficiency for me, the best thing is like performance per dollar. Like that's the best thing. Like, and so again, we were just talking about Dura Ace Ultegra 105. Sure, Dura Ace is what everyone wants to ride, but like 105 is so much more impressive in terms of like the bang for your buck that you get, right? So I personally love like trying to squeeze the performance per dollar, like Trace Velo, right? You know, the same thing, like X $1,000 budget, I want to make the lightest, fastest bike I can. Like I love nerding out about that as much as anyone. Two things though, when you're shipping like a frame from China to Europe, a $500 frame or a $5,000 frame, the shipping costs the same. So as a percentage cost of the good, like that's a lot bigger percentage. So especially when we started off, my strategy was always to start with high-end stuff, because then, and also because as a small company back in the day, our economies of scale, like we had no economies of scale. Like we pay so much more for shipping than like AliExpress does and stuff like that. So it was almost impossible for us to even get started with that stuff. Me personally, like if I'm developing a wheel set for myself that I said earlier, I develop things just that I want to ride. Of course, I want to ride an 800 gram wheel set more than I want to ride a 1,000 gram wheel set. So like I have this personal invested interest to develop high-end stuff and to test high-end stuff and all of this. But from a business point of view, the middle of the market is of course a much bigger market. Like Shimano sells a lot more 105s than they do Dura Ace, because it's, you know, it's just a numbers game. Like it's the pyramid, right? So financially, I have motivation to make more attainable value stuff. So it's definitely something I want to do, because like, you know, I don't have grands of the business growing massive, but like, of course, like a business has to make money, right? So I have financial motivation to make value stuff. So it's definitely something we want to do. But yeah, our strategy from day one is start with the expensive stuff and then trickle down to more and more affordable stuff. So, and again, if you look, you know, we've just put the in color frames on the site, and they're like $4,000 or $5,000 frames, depending on like if you want custom geometry and stuff. So it's like you're going in the wrong direction, Joe. But for 2026, we have plans. Like we're bringing some more affordable stuff on. It is something that we want to do.
That's cool. Any brands in particular you want to spoiler?
I don't want to spoil it too much, because like I spend a lot of time testing stuff and sorting out what is good and bad, and then I'll put it on the website, and then every other wannabe PandaPodium puts it on their website without doing any of the testing. Like, oh, Joe's done all the testing, so it doesn't otherwise. So I don't want to say now, because they'll probably put it on the website before I even put it on mine. But there is, in China, there's lots of value brands. They do vary a lot. Some of them are great, some of them are not so great. And it takes us a lot of testing to test it ourselves and see which ones are which. But because, and again, you know, you sell one or two or five of something. If 5% of them have a problem, you're fine. But like the amount of stuff that we're selling now, if 5% have a problem, I'm in trouble. So yeah, we have to do more and more due diligence with testing and stuff. So yeah, we want to get more affordable. We want to get more value. Just give us some time.
When I scroll through the comments of your videos, or maybe on some forums, I also see some guys say, "Ah, you can get this kind of frame maybe directly from the company for even cheaper." Like, what do you want to say is a value add of PandaPodium? Like, instead of directly going to maybe Evolve's website, if they want to talk with me, I'm not sure Evolve as other would be.
Yeah, no. So I'd say for 95% of the things we sell, the price that we sell it for and the price that they sell it for themselves is the same price. So Evolve, for example, the price on PandaPodium is exactly the same as the price on Evolve's own website. Fast Sports, anyone who sells on their own website, we sell for the same price. There's another layer for that, which is like where people are like, I'm trying to think of an example that we have. I don't think we have an example, but there are some other people who are selling frames, which are branded. And then people are like, oh, I know who makes this frame. You can get it direct from the factory for this much. This doesn't apply for us, but I'll defend those guys as well. A factory will make a bunch of frames from the same mold even. And so people look at the pictures like, it looks exactly the same. They look at the geometry chart, it's exactly the same geometry. It may not be the same frame. So number one, by design, it may not be the same frame. They might have different layups. They might have different materials inside of it. They might have different, the way a factory works is time is money. And so they will literally have production lines where the QC people have 3 minutes to QC the frame, and another production line where the QC people only have 1 minute to QC the frame. Like, time is money in the factory. So they might have gone through different production lines and stuff. And even when a factory makes this thing and they sell it to a brand, let's say the brand orders 50, the factory delivers 50, the brand QCs it themselves, 5 of them don't pass the QC, get thrown back to the factory. The factory might rub the logos off and just sell them directly. So when you're going straight to the factory, you think you're getting the same thing for the same price. No, you're getting the QC rejects for the same price. I don't think there's any examples of frames like that on PandaPodium. There was a time when I think it was L2. L2 on AliExpress was a lot cheaper than it was on our website. And I only found out when I saw it in the comment section as well. And I went to L2, I was like, yo, what's going on? And that's just because of the weird and wonderful ways of AliExpress. And the sellers don't actually choose the price of things that get sold on AliExpress. Like AliExpress is like changing the price themselves.
Algorithmic pricing.
And L2 had also outsourced the shop to like an AliExpress company. At one point, I think an L2 group set on AliExpress was like, the electronic one was like $6 above the price that I bought it for. So if I wanted to sell it for the same price at AliExpress, I'd make $6 profit, but I wouldn't because I pay for shipping for the customer. Yes. So, but when I found out about it, L2 were like, oh, it's because it's the old model, you know, we're phasing it out, selling it off cheaply, blah, 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 blah. And now I think, I've not looked for a while, but sometimes on AliExpress now, L2 RX is even more expensive than on PandaPodium. So AliExpress, Luke loves it.
I love it.
You love it. But
sometimes.
But it's just, it's such a, trying to get your head around it for me is crazy. Like how the pricing works and how all this works. Now on AliExpress, when you see the price, it includes VAT, but then when you put it in your shopping cart, it takes the VAT off and stuff. Yes. And I can't keep up. I can't keep up.
The price is random, yeah.
Yeah, I can't keep up.
Yeah, we just touched when you go to Shanghai show, like a lot of people come to me, what do you want to try my product, want to sell it? Maybe I see there's a long queue outside, waiting outside. Want to give you some samples to sell. Like, how do you decide which brands you want to take on? The
whole PandaPodium thing is like everything we sell is vetted, blah 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 blah. And so like if one day something that we sell has a problem, that's going to look not so good, right? I'm sure one day it will happen because, you know, Specialized have recalls, you know, and carbon bikes are handmade products and humans make mistakes. Definitely that's a huge risk for us. If I take on something that turns out to be shit, you know, we're in trouble. So to answer your question, we do lots of due diligence, right? So, and first of all, we just go through the headline stats of it, like, is it better than everything else we're selling on the site now, or does it have more value than everything we're selling on the site now? We have people who come to us, let's say with a wheel set, which is like the same weight as a CRW and the same everything as a CRW, and the retail price is the same as a CRW, but they're going to sell it for cheaper than CRW sell for me, so I can make more money. And I'm like, sorry, but no. Like, I'm a firm believer if you solve problems for consumers and if you look after consumers, your business will be successful. So chasing profit margins and stuff, to me, it's a dead end. You're going to kill yourself. If that wheel set doesn't offer something to the consumer that CRW doesn't already, I'm not going to put it on the website. So that's like the first hurdle that brands have to get through. But let's say they come through and like their retail price is cheaper than CRW, or you know they're lighter than CRW, or they're stiffer than CRW, or they have something that CRW isn't done. I'm like, okay, you have potential to sell on the website. Then the next step is like talk to them about like, okay, what testing have you done? Or what testing do you want us to help you to do? Like, let me see your test reports. Are you ISO 4210? If they're willing, or if we have a good relationship with them, like we'll just ask them which factories do you make it at? Because like at this point, like lots of brands don't want you to know which factories they're using, obviously, especially if it's a new brand, because they're scared you're going to go straight to the factory and make it yourself. But because I know so many people in the factories around here. Like, if the brand doesn't tell me, I can just take a photo of like the QR code or the barcode on the rim and like send it to two of my friends, and within 10 minutes I'll know exactly which factory is making your stuff. So you may as well just tell me. And by telling me, I have a good idea of which factories are making the good stuff and which factories are making the not good stuff. So that'll either reassure me or like set off some alarm bells. If it's a factory I don't know, then I'll probably visit the factory if I can. And you know, I've been in enough factories at this point to again see some alarm bells. Like if
do you have any tips? Like what is a mediocre, a good, and a great company? Is there any kind of?
Yeah. So I'd say, again, I don't want to give away too many secrets in case someone else wants to start taking all my years of knowledge. But I'd say factory inspections that you apply to other industries, you can just apply to this industry. So again, there's plenty of research to be done out there. But the cleanliness of the factory, how organized is the factory, like how like the QC processes throughout the factory. Like if you watch my Fast Sports factory tour, like I think that's a good example of a good factory. Like there's so much QC going on, and like every room has a big TV with like the current QC status and stuff. And like the security, like so for the Fast Sports factory, for example, you have to face scan to get in there. You know, not just letting anyone in and out. You can clearly see like, you know, the raw materials, the pre-preg is in the fridge. It's not just like thrown in the corner, like all mixed up. So yeah, you can definitely, there are definitely some red flags of what is and what isn't. We'll do some road testing to see like, okay, because lots of the brands, the Chinese brands, like not all, not most, but yeah, lots, like maybe they don't actually ride bikes that much themselves. Even if they don't ride bikes, I'm not going to just say, oh no, you don't ride bikes, I'm not testing your stuff. Because they might have just, by chance, made an amazing wheel set. So I'll ride everything. But some of it you ride and you're like, oh yeah, I can tell you don't ride bikes. Like this wheel set is way too firm or it's way too soft, etc., etc. So after that, maybe we'll give them some advice on the product, like, oh, I think you should do this, or your logo's ugly, you should do that. And this back and forth lasts for a while. And then also it'll depend with like how the brand wants to work with us. Because if you're going to make PandaPodium your exclusive overseas retailer, then I will help you more. Like I'll help you with your packaging, I'll help you with your branding, I'll help you translate your manual to English, blah, blah, blah. If you're not going to make me your exclusive overseas dealer, I'm not going to do all this work just for someone else to come along and sell your stuff, right? So that's fairly straightforward. And yeah, after that process, you may eventually get on the PandaPodium website.
Maybe some kind of hot take. You made the change from like a ChinaCycling website with your personal opinion as a regular bloke testing out stuff to now doing some like ads for your own products. I guess at the beginning also maybe get some skepticism, maybe some critical comments. I guess the internet is
of course
is an ugly place sometimes. How do you? Is there any like how do you address this kind of skepticism? We say, you're just like a sales people.
Yeah. No, so skeptics are skeptics. I'm never going to convince them, so I can just not say anything. But to be nice and make this interview interesting. So I've said this before. Let's say you have the influencer X who on Instagram every day is saying like, this is the best action camera, and then this is the best action camera. You know, we were talking about this earlier, and then this is the best wheel set ever, and then the next week this is the best wheel set ever. Yeah, filmed on Insta360. When they punt something, as soon as the customer makes the sale, they get their commission. Done. Like if there are issues down the road, they wash their hands of it clean. Like they have nothing to do with it. For me, if I sell this wheel set and down the road it has an issue, that's my issue, right? Like when people start complaining about that brand's wheel, I am that brand, or I am PandaPodium. So I have a lot more skin in the game than most influencers. So personally, I'd say that makes my vouching for something or selling something even more credible, because I have more skin in the game than everyone, right? And especially like when I have, so people say like, oh, but he's got a warehouse full of it, so that's why he's saying it's good to get rid of it. Yeah, but by the same token, if I say it's good and then people find out it's not good, then I've still got a warehouse full of it and people have said bad things about it. So there's more skin in the game than your average influencer is, I'd say. And another thing I just say is transparency. We try to be as transparent as we can. Like I said, I didn't invent the e-commerce website, so everyone is free to make their own e-commerce website. But we do get more and more people just trying to copy what we do and just profit off the backs of like all of our testing and labor and all this stuff. So these days, I'm not 100% transparent as I was before, just because I don't want people just copying my homework. But yeah, transparency, I'd say, and also just go out there and do your research. Like the Arcaris wheels, for example, we were talking about this. Like, I've not done a video on the wheels yet, even though they're for sale on the website, and that's because, of course, I'm going to come out and say they're amazing wheels. But again, I designed these wheels to be my dream wheels, so of course they're going to be amazing wheels for me. Okay. Now, I'm letting some customers ride them and this, that, and the other, and let some opinions come out. And then in my video, which won't be a review, because how can you review your own work? Adam, maybe you can. In my video about the wheels, I will try to reference as much stuff as I can. And of course, you're going to say, oh, but you're going to just cherry pick it, and you're going to say the good stuff. Go out and do your own research. The same with every review on YouTube. There is not one reviewer on YouTube who I would say, just watch his video and then don't watch anything else. Go buy it. No.
Especially with a ref code link in the description.
Of course. Always do your research. There's so much information out there to go read. Go watch everyone's video. Because again, like, lots of the bike stuff is subjective as well. Like, I ride these wheels, I think they're great. You ride the wheels, you think they're not stable in crosswinds or blah, 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 blah. Every rider is different. But one thing I noticed as like a viewer is like, you gravitate towards the YouTuber who has like the same compass as you. So like, I brought something that Joe recommended before and I liked it. So I pretty much know what Joe likes is what I like. And everyone has their YouTuber who has like the same kind of things as them. And yeah, so my following now, like the ChinaCycling, PandaPodium following, like they like the kind of things I like bright paint jobs on the bike and more weight weenie stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Top tier.
Yeah, and more expensive stuff, yeah. Whereas if you follow like a sprinter guy, you know, you'll probably like what he likes, which is like deep wheels and aero tubes and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, do your research. Never just watch one thing. I try to be as honest and objective in my videos as I can be, but after you finish watching my video, go watch someone else's video.
Quickly, like we have here like you totally focus, I think, on carbon road bikes, but let's quickly touch like a cyclocross, time trial, MTB, eMTB, and maybe aluminum. This kind of like more niche kind of topics, or like gravel is not niche anymore. It's like, I think in Germany is one of the biggest selling kind of bikes. So do you also focus on this area?
Selfishly, like lots of PandaPodium is just like what I like. And so I like road bikes, so we sell lots of road bikes. If I was a businessman, of course, I would be like, every other video would be gravel, because in lots of markets now, gravel is bigger than road. But like, I'm primarily not a businessman. I'm a guy who loves bikes and I love road bikes, so that's why we fleet a lot of road bikes. To answer your question, not necessarily as a business decision, but more just because so many people keep asking me, yes, we do need to start doing mountain bikes, and we do need to start doing triathlon bikes, and we do need to start doing all this stuff. But one of the things that has always been the thing of the site, like if we wouldn't ride it ourselves, we wouldn't sell it. And because I don't ride mountain bikes, or like I very rarely ride mountain bikes, I don't want to be saying, oh, this mountain bike's amazing, that mountain bike's amazing, because I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And the reason my audience trusts me is because they know that I know what I'm talking about. If I start talking to you about, what's it called, anti-squat geometry on a mountain bike, like everyone's gonna be like, Joe has no idea what he's talking about. So the plan for 2026 is to get people on the team who know what they're talking about. Basically.
Okay, so that's good.
If you're a mountain biker or a triathlete and you want to come move to China and help me out, welcome.
Okay.
CVs to joe@pandapodium.cc.
Good.
And I'm being serious. Like, yeah, we want more people who know about mountain bikes and triathlon and stuff, so we can start doing those things.
Also, I saw some aluminum frames in your garage. So
yeah, so I'm a huge aluminum bike nerd. Like, I don't think it's as fast as carbon, but number one, it's cheaper, and number two, I like the feeling of riding aluminum. If I'm not riding the Tour de France, if I'm not racing, surely I ride the thing that feels the best, right? And the way I describe it is, you know, like you have a Porsche 911 brand new that's very fast and very good, but then you have an old Mazda MX-5 Miata with like all of the soundproofing is ripped out. You've got a 5-point harness. It's only got like a 1.8 litre engine, not very strong, but just riding it, you feel so much more connected to the road. I'd say that's the thing with the aluminium. Like, you know, you get all of the road buzz. It feels fast. It's not fast, but it feels fast. And yeah, feeling, I think, is a big part of it. So I'd love to develop some aluminium bike frames as well. And again, that are two birds with one stone. One, it would be more value, and two, it would be selfishly what I want to ride. So yeah, I think aluminium is a material that has potential. Magnesium as well. I have a vast, I can't remember the name of it, the V1, I think it was called, the magnesium road bike. That rides amazingly. I've got my steel Colnago, I've got my titanium Waltley and my titanium Cirque. Like, I ride every bike. And I think different materials are super interesting. It's not just carbon, but obviously in Xiamen we have the carbon advantage, which is like why most of the stuff's carbon.
So there's maybe like the last part, maybe do you see any future trends like for this year, or maybe even a wider horizon, like 3 years or even 5 years? Do you see any potential for the road bike to still be improved, or I think it's maybe is it a finished product, or what kind of trends do you see in the future?
So I think it's the 1%, right? So we've already said the bike is only 1%. And we're squeezing it now, right? I don't know. It's crazy. Like, I thought disc brake wheels had got to like a 50 mil disc brake wheel. I thought it like plateaued at like 1,200 grams. I thought like that's as low as again, because like 5 years ago it was like 1,400, 1,500 grams. Like, they were heavier than rim brake wheels. And then when CRW, they came out with like the first of these, what I call third generation carbon spoke wheels that were like 1,200 grams, and like that blew everyone's mind. But now we're seeing all of these like 1,000-ish gram 50 mil wheels. So like, as soon as I think it's done, like someone's finding it. And like 1,200 grams to 1,000 grams is a 20% jump. Like, that's not nothing. Is it a finished thing? I think marketing is going to market, right? So Factor is going to tell you that it's 22% faster and it's totally different and blah blah blah. I don't think we're going to see anything like that that's going to like totally change everything. We are still marginal gains, but yeah.
Or any kind of trends, like I think electronic group sets is something which is standard, I think, for this kind of bike in this area. Oh yeah, the ISP stuff from In Color. Do you think this kind of thing, like custom bike only for you, which the resale value of 0?
So resale value of 0, but if through economies of scale the cost price can get so low, I think that would be a potential thing. But the environmental impact of that, everyone having these single-use bikes and that you can't resell and stuff, probably not a good idea. So yeah, we can try avoid that. But trends, no, I think just lighter, stiffer, faster, right? That's what everyone goes for. I hope we see more like edgy stuff. Maybe long term, I think bike racing and like the UCI is going to become less and less important. And I think that could be a good thing, because then we'll see bikes that don't care about UCI rules, like don't have to have 2 triangles to have a different shape.
Like the triathlon stuff.
Yeah.
Like In Colors, I saw the time trial thing.
Yep. But I mean, where does that end? We're all riding recumbent bikes, right? Because that's the fastest. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't have my crystal ball.
Thanks for taking the time. Also, it was really nice to see you going in office. Maybe next time I come here.
Yeah, the first customer who came to pick up an order from the office, and at that time I had no YouTube channel. Or like
no, I just started last year.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been cool to be a part of the growth, and this is, I love it so much. Like, every time I see Luke from Trace Velo or Shane Miller or any of the other YouTubers, it's this cool little community we have, and I love having an open door, and like I say, everyone can come here and we talk about cameras or we talk about the YouTube algorithm and stuff like this. So yeah, I just love this community of cycling, YouTube, and anything I can do to try pay back to it, I'm happy to do.
So out there, guys, from Germany, you can travel visa-free here for 1 month already. Xiamen in the winter is pretty nice compared to Germany, which have some snow at the moment. So I guess come here, check out yourself if you don't trust Joe's stuff.
Yep.
I think it's a really good quality. It's like the top tier quality. If you want to cheap out, there's also some other channels you can consume.
Again, Trace Velo.
My channel.
This handsome guy you're already watching, so it's fine. Yeah, I never want to say that everyone needs a $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 bike. You do not. Go buy a second-hand $500 CAD 10 and just ride the pants off it. You do not need this stuff. Only if you're twisted in the head like me, or you just really want the absolute best performance, do you need this stuff.
And that's a nice words, and I think we conclude the interview, and thanks for taking the time.
There we go.
Until next time.
Peace.